Welcome to this explainer. If you're watching, you're probably at the very start of a deeply personal, maybe kind of daunting, but absolutely hopeful path, exploring your fertility care. It takes guts to seek answers about your reproductive health, and I'm right here with you as your guide. We're going to dive right in today and demystify what often feels like a completely overwhelming medical world. Let's swap out the confusion for some really empowering knowledge, okay? Okay, let's just be real for a second. If you've recently stepped foot inside a fertility clinic, or honestly, even just opened a Google tab to do some research, you've probably been hit by this massive wave of medical jargon. It's like an alphabet soup, right? It literally feels like you need to learn a whole new language just to understand what's happening in your own body. If you're nodding along right now, please know I completely get it. That feeling of overwhelm is so incredibly valid. But here is the most important thing to remember. You are absolutely not alone in this. Countless people have stood exactly where you're standing right now. In this explainer, we're going to gently break down the very first step of your fertility journey. And don't worry, this isn't about rushing into big decisions or intense treatments right away. It's simply about gathering information. We're going to translate all that clinical speak into clear, everyday language so you can feel completely confident about the road ahead. So let's kick things off at section 1, the starting line, where we talk about gathering information about your body. Before any doctor can map out a fertility plan for you, they need to know your baseline. Like, where are we actually starting from? To find out, they'll usually schedule what they call an endocrine assessment or an endocrine profile. Now, I know, that sounds intensely technical and kind of scary, doesn't it? But honestly, an endocrine assessment is just a blood test. That's really it. It's a simple, standard blood draw to check the levels of hormones currently floating around in your body. It is step number 1 for both men and women exploring fertility treatments. Actually, let's totally reframe how we think about hormones for a minute. Instead of picturing them as these confusing, abstract chemical hurdles, think of them as your body's inner team of messengers. It's a highly coordinated crew, and everyone has a very specific job to do. When we take that endocrine profile, all we're really doing is asking that internal team to step up, introduce themselves, and tell us exactly what's going on inside your reproductive system. Moving right along to our next section, let's meet your inner team, the key hormones of reproduction. All right, let's introduce the main cast of characters your doctor is looking at. First up on the roster is AMH, or anti-Müllerian hormone. Its job is super simple. It evaluates your ovarian reserve. Basically, it checks your egg supply. Next, we have oestradiol, which is a type of estrogen. This one acts like a signal flare from a growing follicle. A higher level tells us, hey, this follicle is getting bigger and the quality is looking great. And then there's prolactin. It has a bunch of other jobs too, but for fertility, we check it because if the levels are way too high, it can actually step in and block ovulation, completely stopping the release of your eggs. Now, let's look at how these messengers work together. It is literally like a perfectly timed relay race. Step 1 belongs to FSH, or follicle-stimulating hormone. Think of FSH as the grower. It gets those follicles growing, maturing the tiny eggs tucked inside. Step 2 is LH, luteinizing hormone. This is the releaser. It handles the final maturation and actually triggers the release of the egg. Finally, step 3 goes to progesterone. I love to call this one the nest builder. Once the egg is out, progesterone swoops in to make the womb super cozy and perfectly prepped for an embryo to implant. It's pretty amazing how they seamlessly hand off the baton to each other. To get the whole shebang, the complete, full picture of your inner team, the initial blood test includes a couple of other really vital check-ins. They're going to look at your testosterone levels, and they'll run thyroid function tests too. Your reproductive system doesn't just operate in a vacuum, it's all connected. So making sure these specific hormones are balanced is an absolutely crucial piece of understanding your overall reproductive health. Okay, moving to our next section, the outside influences. What exactly impacts your hormone team? Well, our daily lives are completely intertwined with our biology. There are several everyday lifestyle variables that can throw your hormone team out of whack. We're talking about things like body weight, specifically a BMI under 19 or over 25. Then there's high stress, super strenuous physical activity, or honestly, even just a lack of sun exposure. These things can genuinely disrupt your cycle, mess with egg maturation, or hinder implantation. But listen to me carefully here. If your hormones are off balance because you're stressed or need more sunshine, that is just a helpful clue for your doctor. It is absolutely not a personal failure on your part. Now, beyond just lifestyle, we also have to consider underlying health conditions. Anything, direct or indirect, that affects how your ovaries or testes function can shake up those hormone levels. And that disturbance is often the exact reason an egg isn't releasing or healthy sperm isn't being produced. Finding an underlying condition during this assessment is actually a huge win. Seriously, it means you and your medical team finally have a clear, specific target to focus on and address. Let's look at a concrete example of this. Remember prolactin, the one that can block egg release? Now, elevated prolactin is totally normal if you're breastfeeding, but if you're not, it can be driven up by chronic stress, thyroid problems, or sometimes these small, completely treatable things called prolactinomas. Figuring out exactly which of these triggers is causing the spike is a game changer because it means your doctor can step in with a targeted, highly manageable solution. So, take a deep breath. Identifying any of these variables is never about pointing fingers or laying blame. It is literally just the vital first step to tweaking things. If your assessment shows eggs aren't releasing or an embryo isn't implanting, knowing these factors helps your doctor understand the why. It totally removes the mystery and replaces it with a solid, actionable medical plan. Which brings us to our final section, moving forward with hope, because knowledge really is power. Gathering all this data about your inner team and the outside world affecting it, that is incredibly empowering. It is the moment you transition from just wondering what's going on to knowing exactly what comes next. And to put it in perspective, testing AMH is basically universal before starting fertility treatments like IVF. This isn't some weird, specialized hurdle. It is the standard, well-worn first step. By taking this simple blood test, you are stepping onto a path that millions have walked before you. You're doing exactly what you need to be doing. We have covered a lot of ground in this explainer today, turning all that clinical jargon into a really clear picture of your body's amazing internal team. This simple blood test is just your body's way of finally getting to chat with your medical team. So I want to leave you with one hopeful question to chew on. Are you ready to listen to the story your hormones are telling? Taking that very first step to gather information is an act of profound self-care. I really hope this explainer gave you the confidence you need to start that conversation with your doctor. Thanks so much for hanging out and learning with me today.